to expect over the coming mornings, and that's really where we see the biggest issues occurring. So I'm Kevin Harned. José Zozaya is here. You're always seeing Jose at 8:05. Let's just give a little bit of a rundown of what we're going to show folks. I'm going to give you the forecast, obviously, which is bitterly cold. We're going to be talking about the coldest air we've seen in about 3 years. And then when you factor in the wind chill, it's going to be even colder than that. We've already heard from the governor earlier today. One person, a 72-year-old woman, parts of southeastern Kentucky, already succumbing to hypothermia.
Yeah, it's talking about, it's the tragedy, and then also the bleak reminder, Kevin, that when you're talking, if you don't have, an ability to find the kind of warm shelter, access to these things that are at the base core level about fundamental surviving, and you report this news to say, gosh, it's unfortunate that this happened, but if we're here to talk about it as a reminder that when you're talking about sub-zero temperatures, that everything could turn south very quickly.
Yeah, the snow has ended, but the results and the consequences of the sort of aftermath of the sleet and snow, and now the cold temperatures on top of us, that is really the problem that we have looking forward. So in this rundown, while I'm talking about the forecast, Jose is also going to be reviewing some of what our reporters have had to say.
That's right.
And we've had all of them out on cold weather stories.
And different perspectives, because you can imagine it's not just the sheer mention that folks have to bundle up. We've been reminding you, it's about the layers, it's about the protection and the prevention you're doing at home. It's often the discussion about the 4 Ps, Kevin. It's a very good device about the people, plants, pipes, and property. What we're going to show you is a little bit more of the
pets. Maybe we
and
should
the
add
pets.
another
I forgot the P is the pets. No, I can't forget my pet. I would not hear the end of that. But talking about what happens after the fact. We woke up Monday morning. We sort of got, past the major snow event. And what we're going to discuss a little bit, you're going to hear from our David Mattingly and Fernando Garcia Franciscini, is one, the work that goes into when you don't have a choice but to go dig your car, dig your driveway, get yourself situated for the rest of the week. And then Fernando's going to talk about, gosh, you went to the grocery store hoping to have that good run to stock up your pantry and your shelves. What happens if that next trip to the grocery store gets a little more complicated because the snow and the cold weather makes that kind of, daily transportation infrastructure that much harder, Kevin?
Yeah, so we're going to roll you through that. We'll be here about 20 minutes, 30 minutes with you. We'll take some of your questions. Let me just jump on and point out what we have to deal with in terms of the forecast. You're going to notice the alert days lined up through the morning hours, and that's because that's when we're at our coldest point. We're talking below zero temperatures and wind chills that would be in the double digits below zero at times. Let's get a check of where we are right now. Current temperature, 7 degrees. And if you think that's cold, look to Bedford and Jasper and Tell City, barely above zero at this point. And certainly our wind chills have been below zero through much of the day. So bundle up, layer, layer, layer. Here we go. Wind chills at 6 below in Louisville, 12 below in Jasper. Cold enough for you, Jose?
I'm going to pass, Kevin. And I was trying to explain this, by the way, real quick, as you're walking us through this. For folks who don't understand how cold it can get, even in this part of the country, international folks, Kevin, if you can imagine the conversation for my relatives. And yeah, sometimes maybe even the computer software is freaking out talking about these cold temperatures.
The wires on the mouse
get so crossed
it does
over.
Not like that.
So let's see if we can move some of this right there.
Yeah, and of course this happened yesterday. Now we're getting Windows security alerts. It's just a nonsense.
All right.
But let me jump back. We'll put this up in between us here,
it.
And this way we can just have a little discussion over what we're seeing. So first of all, the minus wind chills, bad enough, right? You factor in something we haven't seen in quite some time, a new weather warning. This is the extreme cold warning that they have outlined for the entire area.
And see how much it extends. We were discussing sort of the different broad strokes of even the snowfall, Kevin, right? We're talking about southern Indiana, you dealing with the snow. The further south you go, about just the sleet and how that factored into our ultimate numbers that we've been breaking down for you.
Yeah, and again, here we are just looking at what's taking place across the United States, and we're not alone in this cold weather warning. It's extreme all the way from West Texas, lifting up into the Northeast, and that's where we see some massive pushes of cold air coming in. That's going to be with us through the evening hours tonight, into the overnight, through tomorrow morning, but then yes, we have more cold weather lined up even beyond that. The clearing skies tonight will continue to yield the cold temperatures moving in. And that means by early tomorrow morning, we're around -2. And you say, well, that's not so bad. We can handle that, right? Yeah. And I see some folks jumping in. There's Owensboro and other folks saying hello from wherever you are. I see another one from our YouTube page saying, hey, not a fan of the cold. But it's not just the temperature. Look at where these wind chills are going to be tomorrow morning. We're talking -15.
I'm seeing -20s some there too there, Kevin.
Yeah, and some could go, Jose, as low as -25 by early tomorrow morning. You're looking at places like LaGrange and Shelbyville. So the cold air in place. Just a couple of preparation tips. One, make sure the garage door is closed. All right. That just helps keep the heat in. And I know a lot of garages aren't, have heating or air, but that just keeps the very cold air out. Now, the opposite of that is true if you're on the inside. You want to open the doors to the bathroom cabinets, to the kitchen cabinets, especially if your pipes are on that outer wall. That will help that warmer air from the house circulate and reach those pipes. Let the water faucets drip. A very thin pencil-thin strip of air would be of water.
More than adequate, right, Kevin?
Yeah, you don't want to turn them on full blast. Yeah. And by all means, make sure you have somewhere for the pets to go. Keep the pets in mind when we have temperatures this cold. It is not a place that they need to have to suffer outside. Make sure they have plenty of water to deal with as well, because they'll need that. So when we look at the 10-day earliest alert, you're going to clearly see the alert days for Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Friday, Saturday morning, and you say, well, why through the weekend do we have it? Why Friday and Saturday? Well, take a look. By Saturday morning, we're just about as cold on the wind chill. It's -15 to -20 for that period as well. So it is a very chilly forecast that we have looking forward, Jose.
To think the preferable, Kevin, there you see the -4 in Raleigh. Somehow North Carolina getting on the lighter side of things there. Real quick, so as Kevin is breaking down, what we have to look forward to, just getting you ready for the next weekend, let's talk about taking advantage of the afternoon today and the sunshine. Again, that's out to sort of give folks an idea of just how much snowfall there was. I want to take you to the report. Wave News reporter David Mattingly left us that some folks had much more success than others when it comes to digging all the snow.
In the wake of a major winter storm, Louisville is a tale of two cities, one where the streets are plowed and one where they are not. With a winter storm on the way, Tim Cunningham had a plan. Do you have a blanket over your windshield?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do.
A blanket and carpet padding tied down with a rope saved him from scraping snow off his windshield. But there was nothing he could do about the wall of snow the city plows left behind on his street in Smoketown.
Well, that's the point about driving a Dodge Ram 1500. It got a four-wheel drive. Last year, I walked right over the snow and ice last year, so I'm hoping I can do the same thing this year, too.
Some people, however, don't have the horsepower to plow through what the plows leave behind. You're stuck.
Yeah, I am. Like Chuck.
Thanks to the plows, there was no way Regina McBride was going to just drive away from her home in Portland. If it weren't for some kind-hearted neighbors with shovels and a big push, she might still be stuck.
Say, God sent me some angels.
It was definitely a moment for thanks, but not so much just a few blocks away.
When snow hits, we have to basically fend for ourselves.
Portland resident Chuck Turner says he's rarely seen a plow come down St. Cecilia Street. His neighbor David Pope says his rear-wheel drive sports car can't get any traction in this slippery mess.
I've been out here for an hour and a half trying to get out and still can't get out. I just said, forget it, and back in here, because, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do.
And now, with the frigid temperatures moving in, there is no thaw in sight, leaving residents with two choices: dig out or stay in. David Mattingly, Wave News.
Well, David, I'll take the latter on that one. We will stay in. Let's bring us back here there we go. Back here into the studio. Kevin, so real quick, we were talking about the car there. I am so glad not to have to deal with a rear wheel sports car. I miss it for what it functions. But in this kind of weather, it is the last mode of transportation you want to deal with. And I think there's a lot of folks, as we're going to go through some of these questions. Real quick, as a shout out to someone named my man, Jerry. where he was having a conversation where someone was disappointed. We are not talking about the 12 to 15 inches that might have been in the cards.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that coming up after the break.
Yeah.
But we will address what happened in the forecast of why we got, 6, 7, 8 inches across Jefferson County as opposed to the, 10 to 14 we thought we may get.
Yeah.
It happened just north of us. I'll show you that snow map coming up. Let's jump in and answer a few of these questions. I heard David also when he was talking to some of the folks in his story saying the Angels showed up, and boy, you got to like it when that happens.
That's people showing up for each other, and who hasn't been in that situation where you just can't get over that last little hump of snow, and someone just a little nudge, a little push is all it needs just to get you back on the somewhat decent roads that were paved.
Well, I tell you, I pulled out of my garage and I thought, well, I'll take an SUV, and it had a flat tire, so I couldn't do that. Meanwhile, the plow had come down the alley, which mounded up snow about that high.
Yep.
My car sits about that high off the ground.
That ridge already great.
So I can't even get out of my garage. So I'm out there with a shovel and trying to get out. Finally got out, and I thought, well, this is not going to go well, but I had to get to work.
Yes.
So luckily I made it.
And you and I made
we'll
it.
see.
And I'm just thinking about
Your car sits high.
It does sit high.
I
I'm
was going to
thinking
have you come get me.
this is shades. You can call me next time. The shades of just with a Mustang, and it's so low to the ground of the chassis.
Yeah.
But so hopefully, folks, you didn't have to abandon your cars. I know that's probably the last thing you want to think you have to do, and just walk to where you need to go, or call somebody and feel embarrassed about, like, I need to go somewhere.
Are you kidding me?
Car stuck.
I'd be like, listen, half of them need to be calling because they can't drive,
And just,
even on good ground.
that's right. That is correct. So a
Let's
lot of folks jumping in here on the questions, Kevin.
All right, here's Judy. She's just saying hello from Finley. We say hello back. Let's go to, I can't read that from here. But
Really, I'm going to
Really?
see really coming in. I got work on Wednesday. Hopefully it won't be as cold. I don't think that's going to be the case.
yeah,
Just
Wednesday's
a
cold.
clear answer is no.
In fact, yeah, just end it there, right?
Yeah.
Because we're below 0 in the morning. Not as windy on Wednesday, but cold, no doubt. All right, question number 2.
All right, this is from Island Girl 96792. Will there be freezing happening on the roads despite the treatment? And that's thinking for you drivers, hoping that your drive-in is as safe, as manageable as possible. But Kevin, you were sort of breaking down. It really just depends on the precipitation we're dealing with and how much time it has to sit on the surface.
Well, it depends what they treat things with now, too, because all of that is now different. They started putting molasses into stuff. They've got a lot of different
magnesium
chemicals.
chloride compounds, calcium chloride compounds.
A lot of these chemicals that they're using are good once we, up until we get below 0, and you start to get more than 5 below 0, and things really go bad. So it's just one of those things where it depends what the treatment is. Salt, that kind of stuff. It's melting it, but the water's going to freeze. Yeah. I was on the phone with several emergency managers earlier this evening, just about an hour or so ago, and several of them were talking about refreezing is already occurring. Now that the sun is gone, the sun helped out today. We didn't make it above 14 degrees, but the sun helps out. Why? Because that radiation comes down, it heats the pavement, it allows some of the melting with the chemicals that we have to occur. But the bad news is once we lose the sunlight, it starts to refreeze.
And it's your pocket of the 8 hours of overnight that things can just refreeze and reset back in.
Yes.
What do we do? Question number 3, Kevin, if there's one further up, or
just
shout out there from folks from North Vernon.
Yeah, we can pop those on. Let's just say hello. Eva, that is saying hello. Here's the one you were referencing a while ago.
There's
My man Jerry saying they were disappointed. Yeah, they are nuts. All right, I'm going to go with that. They are nuts. I'm good with the amount we got. It was still heavy as it could be.
Would you folks like to shovel any more snow if that's that was your task, and maybe you delegate the duties at home? If whose turn is it to help shovel the driveway, help clear the garage, the front door?
You sound bitter.
I'm not bitter. I just understand that's my role.
Have you been home?
I did go home actually, and
you
it's
shoveled?
I did, and this is where I don't know, folks, if you're lucky enough to have the HOA and those small plows on those pickups, and they can kind of make that good turn and able to come back out. It's those side roads, unfortunately. We understand the snow routes are important, but if you're on your neighborhood street and folks are still parked on either side, it creates a one-way funnel, and you're fishtailing, trying not to slip and slide. It's like, I really don't want to scrape somebody's car on my way into work.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Like bumper cars.
Yes.
I think our neighborhood was probably the best it's ever been. I've only lived there for a few years, but it was great. This time around. Last year, not so much. I'm like, did they forget to take care of the snow removal? This year, it was, or today, yesterday, this storm was much better. I still don't know who takes care of 22 Brownsboro Road from like the Gene Snyder out to Oldham County. They forget it every time. It was a disaster until this morning, and finally, it looked good.
So they learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Oh, you see Wavy chiming in with some power outages there. 2.2% of Adair County without power. And again, we've seen some of those outages come and go depending on what the melting may look like or not look like. Sometimes refreezing in the electric grid can cause problems. So I'm not sure what causes this, but 264 customers that are reporting those outages are indeed having problems. And can you imagine how cold that night must look
This
like?
is the conversation about, being safe if you're dealing. Well, you would have loved to have had your space heater handy. It's not the case while crews are there trying to fix the issue. And it's like, what do you do to, body heat, grab the blankets, hold on to those layers in the meantime, because we know crews are going to work as fast as possible. It's just they got to deal with the elements as well outside.
Yeah, you saw some folks in David's package using creative means. Here's one from Truett Scott George saying, yep, been using a fleece blanket over my windshield for years in these cases.
Has it worked for Truett? I hope.
Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't keep doing it, right? I hope so too.
I never would have thought. Gene from Scottsburg. Hey, Gene.
Yeah, hello back at you from southern Indiana, where they did have a little more snow. Scottsburg on the order of 8, 9, 10 inches of snow, and more than a foot farther north from there. And again, I've got that map for you coming up in just a second. There's Goshen. Christina's checking in, saying hello. And here's, I think, an important point from Austin saying, I'm just glad we missed the ice storm. And boy, you don't have to look too far south to see the crippledness that they have going on in Nashville.
Mississippi has been apparently, not I say catastrophic, but more than just significant damage and just completely upending people's lives. And if they're not used to this kind of cold, at least that part of the deep south, when you're dealing with this system, right, Kevin?
Well, Ryan and I were talking earlier. I think Nashville had about 200,000 people without power. One of his friends was communicating by satellite because everything is down. Phones down, cell phones down, power out. I mean, that's a real problem.
How else do you get the message out? And it's just, thankfully, you could be resourceful, but just trying to get out of a really sticky situation.
Question.
Will the cold ice will the cold ice let the roads be less effective with what they put down on the street? I think we understand what Nishab is asking right there.
Yeah, and I think we were addressing that a while ago, and that is depends what the chemical is they're using, but obviously it is only good to a certain point as the temperature goes down. And here's another one that I'll end on, and then we can take a break and come back, and we're still going to answer more of your questions, but this is a thanks from Beverly for all of the updates. I'm glad you've noticed because we have been on much more frequent, and that's the case when we have any type of active weather going on. Jose is here every night at 8:05 with the news stories of the day. Brian is always on from our team in the morning hours between that 9 and 10 o'clock time frame with a weather update. Typically, it goes very deep into the weather for folks that want a snapshot and for folks who are weather nerds like us and really want an in-depth look. So we appreciate you noticing. And
it's that information that's power, Kevin, and folks want to, you break it down for them, easy to digest. That's the beauty of being able to connect with folks and you joining us so we can have this, we like to have a much more casual, but still in-depth conversation about something important.
Yeah, I feel like we shouldn't be wearing ties in here.
This is a function so I could stay warm.
Oh, is that right?
I'm keeping the layers on right here. That's right.
Yeah, it is a little chilly in here. All right. Well, coming up after the break, we do have more reports. Fernando Garcia Franceschini has been out in the cold and snow. I know Mark Stevens is also from our team, has been out in the snow. And we're going to take a look back at how much you got and what's coming our way. It really is more about the cold than the snow, but I'll show you a couple of minor snow chances in that 10-day earliest alert.
We'll be right back, folks.
Hey, everybody. We're still in this commercial break on all of our streams. So if you're watching from Fire Stick, Amazon Fire, that is, or a Roku or maybe Apple TV, those folks are getting a quick break. And you folks get to see the behind the scenes.
That's right. It's the commentary team.
It's better
and
to
just
look at
saying
us than
hi.
the big black screen, isn't it?
It's the truth. We're
Maybe
just
it's not.
No,
I shouldn't have asked that.
No, we're just looking for an ability to reset, and we have, a credit to the team that is also, while Kevin and I
Yeah, I
are
think
trying
Ryan
to
must be
set these
jumping
things
in.
up. Yeah, Ryan, perhaps letting us pick and choose the sources that we want to play, which also gives us a little window or time since we have a great team, and they were out there. I'd say slumming it, but in the cold, letting you know just the different kind of.
What is it? I heard that they call the
so.
people inside house cats. So
House
we're
cats.
house cats.
I'd rather be a house cat tonight. Okay, don't you love the pictures too, Kevin, where the dogs just love. They enjoy playing in the snow so much. All right, I'm going to see how we're looking on the stream. We're probably back now on the weather.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back in. We've got about 30 seconds left here before we jump back into the conversation with you. A lot of folks have been commenting and letting us know what's going on in their backyards. Others have questions. Here's one from a viewer on YouTube saying, how long will Jefferson County Public Schools be closed?
Understanding it was today, we know tomorrow they made the same decision, understanding the real risk is the cold. I would be the last to think you want the kids exposed, even if it's for minutes at a time. But all it takes is minutes to really the most vulnerable people in our community to be out there in zero and sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah, some folks wait in the cars.
Yes.
That's not the case for everybody.
No.
Some can't be dropped off. So waiting in this cold is dangerous. Welcome back in, everybody. We were just answering the question, or at least speculating on how long Jefferson County Public Schools will be closed with alert days back to back to back. That's where we see that the extreme cold is with us all week long. I told you we'd get back into looking at the weather, sort of what happened in the past, meaning how much snow and ice people got. Do you want to do that first or jump over to Fernando?
Let's do Fernando first. And this puts in a great question, Kevin, what people are willing to put up with. And it's about, I'd argue survival at an essential level. You're talking about trying to brace up, do as much as you can indoors, minimize your time outside. But part of that is, I understand heading into the snow event for the weekend, it was a run to the grocery store. It was getting all your staple needs. Maybe you have a big family to think of, and you're also trying to watch your dollars. So what does it take now to make sure folks can get a hot meal? And especially so the danger for our folks who are the most vulnerable, our homeless population. So with that, what we want to do is play a little bit of our Fernando Garcia Francischini's report that he was able to do today. And this is us grabbing the wrong mouse, so I will defer to Kevin.
Right, sorry.
And so have it list 7 right there, and we can play it out.
We were at the Hope Village as meals were being delivered to those in need. And it's all thanks to people in the community coming together, even when the roads aren't great and the cold isn't letting up. The Hope Village is a nonprofit that creates and operates transitional housing communities to help people experiencing homelessness. Through their partnership with Feed Louisville, they also provide hot meals to those in need. We actually were able to visit the Feed Louisville kitchen on Monday and see the work that happens behind the scenes to get food to people who need it. Even though they were working with a smaller crew than usual, the executive director says staying closed on Monday was not an option. She says way too many people in Louisville rely on their services.
People who are living unhoused just simply don't have access to food. They cannot prepare food. They cannot store food. So this ability to get food to them on a daily basis directly to where they are is really critical.
Kamara points out some emergency kitchens shut down during and after a winter storm, which is why the community relies on them and outreach groups to get the food out. Both Feed Louisville and the Hope Village are looking for donations and volunteers. If you want to help out, you can find more information with this story on wave3.com. Fernando Garcia Francischini, Wave News.
All right, thanks to Fernando for that. Real quick, Kevin, sometimes you get these decisions and these updates from agencies around the metro just wanting folks to see how much more of their regular daily lives can somehow get back to normal as quickly and as safely as possible. But just an update real quick for TARC riders, service is going to be on regular snow detours starting tomorrow. And so all of the routes are going to be on their normal schedule. So it depends on what you normally hop on to go about your business, go to work, go to school, whatever you need to do. Great resource, go on social, go on their page online. But you got to factor in what is drivable in these conditions, Kevin.
Well, and I think you have to really applaud the city and the state workers for at least getting out and moving a lot of the snow and ice. Many of the roads are passable. All of the interstates are now clear.
Yeah.
So nice job, right? I mean, we went through a pretty decent winter storm there. So
it just takes so many different trucks. And, this loops back to the earlier conversation about the chemicals you need to pre-treat to deal with all this. But that required buying, tons of the salt, tons of the solution.
which was hard to find in some places.
That's right. Tons of the fuel that you need to fill these trucks up so they can continue working these long shifts. It took, 12-hour shifts is what the city leaders were telling us, working that long to keep things as clear as possible.
That sounds like being in this building.
12-hour shifts. We can relate, folks.
Yeah. Let me jump in. I want to talk about the weather. We've got the look back at the map for how much snow we had. You were looking there at a number of areas of where we had snowfall, and that's what's coming up here. These are our SkyTrack cameras. I wanted to point out that some of the side roads are still snow covered. There you see Brent Street. That's over in Paristown. That still has snow over top of it. Regardless, the interstates are moving, and we're seeing more and more traffic take to the interstates, and you can see their taillights there in the junction. As far as how much snow we picked up here in Louisville, 5.9 inches of sleet and snow that fell here in Louisville. Was that shy of what we expected? You bet. Why was that? Warm air working in just above the surface, giving us sleet instead of snow. However, just to our north, you can see what a wallop that was. We're talking 25 miles north. We would have been well over a foot of snow, while areas to our south picked up less snow, but a little more sleet, even some freezing rain down that way. And our latest report coming in out of Adair County with at least some power outages. I did speak to the emergency managers out of Hardin County, out of Taylor County, and then additional ones down in Greene County, and have had no reports of any major problems going on in those locations. So that's some good news, especially if you've dealt at all with any type of freezing rain. But just take a look at some of those totals. The difference between Jefferson County and the southern part of the county, where they have 5.9 inches of rain, of snow and sleet, and up toward Pee Wee Valley, where they had 8.6. So across one county, you saw the difference of 2, 3, 4 inches of snowfall and sleet. Our snow so far this winter puts us at the 30th snowiest on record. That means with the total we just added, we're now at 17.1 for the season so far. 10th place would be 23.7. Will we get there? It is still possible. There's plenty of winter to go. All right, I just want to point out that on our maps, we have the alert days for each morning: Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Why? All about the cold. We're looking at wind chills, actual air temperatures below zero, wind chills tomorrow morning that could run on the order of 15 to 25 below, depending on where you are. So yes, it is going to be bitterly cold. You have to plan accordingly. Make sure you have a plan for the cold temperatures that will be with us. Wednesday morning, not as windy, but still cold. We're at -1 to start the day. And then you can see by Thursday, another front moves in. That takes our temperature from the 20s back into the teens. We're at 15 for highs on Friday and Saturday. That comes with some wind, and that again means wind chills could range anywhere between 5 and 20 below Friday morning and Saturday morning. So, Jose, when we're looking at something like that, critical to see the very cold air that's in place, and that just means everybody has to have a plan to stay safe. And a lot of that means staying inside if you can.
And to add another layer to that, Kevin, is, understanding this conversation, LG&E, different utilities. We know that's been discussed to start the work week, the strain, the toll that this is all taking on all of our different abilities. You might take for granted just the action of turning on that light switch, having the microwave or the coffee maker go. We're all just trying to do the best to stay warm in our pockets, as is the safe thing to do when you're dealing with such dangerous temperatures. And so to that end, you're going to hear us likely keep that conversation going for lowering your thermostats to a comfortable level, unplugging certain devices if you can afford to. Something, if you, again, have the option for it where you live, is also furnaces.
Yes.
If you have a chimney or something else to provide that, not an external, but just an additional source of heat. And maybe you're someone who's very proactive. You thought about this around October, November. That would have put you in a good position to have your chimney or your furnace ready to go. maybe you just didn't think about it until it was time for all this to settle in.
Are you good at replacing the
I'm
filters?
not. No, I'm not.
I always
I
mark
need reminders.
Same here, and I put a reminder and still don't do it. But I did do it the other day because I was like, oh, it's going to get cold. That was a reminder for me, and I went down and I looked at the last date on it. You should do it like monthly, right?
Yep. I told monthly, but when?
October was what was I written on the filter, so I was a little bit behind there.
Not to mention, I've started a whole search engine, thread on my computer, Kevin. It was about like, okay, you grew up in Florida. I didn't have to think about a chimney. Now you're a homeowner and thinking about chimney maintenance and chimney prep. And it's like, well, if this isn't a lesson to also be as proactive about this as possible. So I want to have that conversation with you folks about what you need to look for in a chimney, or just sometimes as simple as have someone come and check it. No, I want to have someone come check it so that I feel like I could use it.
Yeah, good.
Let's talk about, if you want, should we answer some questions or check in with another one of our team?
You mentioned the furnace. So Mark Stevens has been out as part of our troubleshooter team. Let's just get a check for him and we'll turn his mic on and we'll be able to hear what Mark Stevens had to say.
Homeowners that have a heat pump like this will want to make sure that it's actually set to auxiliary power, with temperatures supposed to get even more sub-zero than they are.
We're really busy. The phones have been ringing off the hook.
BJ Heating and Cooling technicians have been making house calls all day, even trying to help customers over the phone if they can.
People say their units won't come on, and they're throwing codes, different things.
President Barry Nichols says sometimes the fix is as simple as replacing a dirty filter.
If you got one that looks like this, you need to change it.
Even if his own shop is the culprit.
It will block it, make it overheat. Another thing to watch out for too is when you go to the hardware store, wherever you get these, make sure you don't get too thick of a filter, like the MERV too high, because that can stop them up also.
He also says try flipping the power on and off. That may help the furnace reset itself and kick on. Some fixes will need a tech though.
Headaches, dizziness, things like that.
Flu symptoms could be a sign of a failing heat exchanger, leaking carbon monoxide. They get old, rusty, and develop pinholes. The company gave me these pictures of heat exchangers ready for the scrap heap. They can be an expensive fix.
Some are under warranty. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. A lot of times if they're real over 10 years old, sometimes heat exchangers are hard to get. Sometimes you just have to replace the whole furnace.
That's a call that sometimes happens as the technicians fight snow-covered roads and driveways themselves to make their house calls.
With our vans, it's very easy to get stuck. So biggest thing is to make sure they're clear, we can get out there.
Another thing homeowners can check for themselves is the exhaust line from the furnace. That'll either come out the roof or the side of the house. Just make sure that isn't clogged by ice or snow, because that will also shut down a furnace. In Louisville, Mark Stevens, Wave News.
All right. Appreciate that, Mark. Thank you. Again, the furnace filters, important. Shonda's saying, hey, Kev, I also put the date on the filters. Then don't check them.
We understand, Shonda. You think you said it, but then you forget it.
But she's saying, hey, put it in Alexa. Alexa will remind you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alexa, I have a love-hate relationship with Alexa.
Do you think it's just because she'll listen to just like the conversations where you're not wanting any input? It's about like, could be like a movie thing and you're thinking, oh, here's movie time. So it's like, I wasn't trying to go to the movie theater, Alexa.
Yeah.
You're just chiming in.
I think it's because then it's like, hey, in your store, you haven't bought this in a minute. It's like, well, I'll tell you when I want to buy it. I don't need you reminding me of that. Anyway, old school. See, now it's not like the dad. It's like, or the grandpa, get off the lawn.
No. For folks who are watching on the live stream, you're part of this ability to connect. This is also of that mindset. If you want to read a book, Kevin, and you line in the sand between the folks who love their Kindles and their ebooks, and I'm in the school where like, I want the touch of the paper. I'm old school and tangible about those kinds of things. So you don't like the Kindles? It's just like, I could do it, but heart of hearts, I would rather sit down and turn the pages and just feel like
going out to sit on the beach or whatever.
Absolutely.
It's a page turner.
It's a tactile thing. For me, I think.
Interesting.
So.
All right. We're going to take just one quick break. It'll take 1 minute. When we come back, we're going to answer a lot of questions. I'll put up the 10-day for the folks that, I said I would put up the 10-day.
Let's do the 10-day and leave it up.
Maybe I will, maybe I won't.
There we go. We're going to take a quick break, folks. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we are back on the weather stream and now officially on the timing. We juggle both streams on a day like this, where it's the merging of two worlds. What do you call this? Like, I'm thinking of those movies, Kevin, where they get two very different movie franchises, and it's the Fusion Power Hour. If you remember those specials on TV, it feels like a very kids Saturday morning cartoon type thing. Like two things you never thought would work together, but we do work together. We're on the same team. It's the Wave News team.
I feel like we're swimming upstream sometimes. Maybe that's the stream I'm in. All right, we're going to said we would take some of your questions here before we hang it up. It's 8:41. We'll be on with you for just a few more minutes here. Obviously, we've talked about how cold it is. That's the important part. We've given you some tips. We talked about TARC restoring their services to the winter routes, but they are slowly and surely coming back around. So
let's see.
Whatever questions you have.
Well, there's a lot of folks leaving their measurements, which is interesting to think, it's super helpful, I imagine, Kevin, when you get viewer pictures or, they think to, take out the rulers just to dip it in. And even if it's just, very micro to where they might be, you get to say, okay, I'm adding these numbers. This is good to get as thorough a perspective as possible.
Well, that's what we love about the MPing reports. And measurements are one thing that's great. And we get a lot of those. But some of the things that we don't get that was especially helpful in this last round was the precipitation type.
Okay.
Are you really seeing sleet? Do you have the freezing rain? Or are you in all snow? And boy, once we could see that, because we didn't have a lot of what we call ACARS data coming in, and that's the flight data.
Okay.
We don't launch weather balloons here. So getting the vertical profile of the temperature, which was so important in the storm and most winter storms for us, we get that from airplane data coming in. So it takes that measurement at each level as the plane comes down or takes off. But the bad news was the airport was closed, or at least closing. So there was limited air traffic coming in and out. So we didn't have good reports of what that vertical profile looked like. So how do we get that? Reports that are coming in from our viewers, and that really makes a big difference. So we appreciate everybody that joins into the MPing sort of dance and sends those reports.
Not just interactive, folks, it's collaborative. And as Kevin, was just describing all this sort of, for those of us who thankfully will absorb all this knowledge and understand, it's about a vertical, perspective of these things. It's you take these measurements and this data for granted, but it tells a heck of a story.
Yeah, it does. It's helpful. All right, here's one from MJ.
All right, MJ, what does it look like for Saturday as far as snow potential, Kevin? And it is marked as an alert day.
Yeah, we have Saturday marked, and that's because of the cold. But I can tell you that the snow on Saturday, that chance is fairly low, 30%, 30%. This will be snow showers. But I think the one thing you'll notice more will be that cold. And we're talking wind chills on Saturday, anywhere between that 15 to 20 below zero realm. So it will be very cold moving forward into the weekend in terms of the wind chill. Those other snow chances that you see at 30%, one on Wednesday, and then others later into the 10-day forecast.
Right around Groundhog Day. Look at that.
Yeah, and just after, that will be a very light snow chance at this point. So the good news is we don't have any major winter storms to look at. If we were to look back at when we first started talking about the winter storm that we just had, Brian mentioned that on the blog in early January. So that was roughly 19 days ahead of when it actually hit. That's pretty impressive.
It's plenty of time to consider.
Sometimes the long range modeling gives us ideas, and then many times it's not exactly right. But other times like this one, it sort of comes into focus and picture, and it was something big.
And with that, Kevin, and this could be folks' questions from where they're watching on the live stream, is when you're taking that long-term data, it seems at least the coverage area that we've been talking about with the storm system, it seems like everyone who is anticipating some kind of impact, extending from north to south, they've all got varying degrees of it. So it seems it's just a matter of like when you could follow the path, whoever is in this cone, I guess we can be sure that something is coming. It's just a matter of specifically what it's going to be.
And we never know those specifics until we are much, much closer. Yeah. So that's why we're always like, this is an idea. This is what we are looking at. But that's why being transparent with the data, and we have more data now than ever before. Yeah. So when you look back to, a lot of people wanted to compare this storm to 94 and some other big storms that we've had around here. But the fact is, we have so much more data at our fingertips now than we did back then, that trying to narrow it down, and we still don't always get it 100% right, because it is always changing and there's never enough data for what we need. But, for the most part, it becomes fairly close.
All
now.
this is dynamic in nature.
And
too.
it matters if it hits a population area, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, had we been saying we would get 5 inches of snow in Louisville and then had the heavier total, say, just to our north across, let's just pick a random county, Du Bois County, Indiana,
County.
where they did get the heavy snow in this instance. But let's just say we were going to get 5 inches here and they wound up getting 5 there instead of 14. Well, it wouldn't be nearly as talked about because there are far fewer people. So it matters. And it always matters, but you hear a lot more about it when it falls across the population.
Scale of impact is how you might describe
Yes.
that. Let's see. I know Derek is sort of thinking the same thing, and maybe about the number of inches around the Saturday time. It might, I chuckle and say it's going to be hard to tell, although we were sort of doing our best to prepare for this next one. So,
yeah,
anything else?
Nothing major in the 10-day, right?
No.
So, I mean, when we're looking at that, we're looking at light snow showers. Will that be impactful? Well, it could be in terms of slick spots because our temperatures are so cold through the entire 10-day forecast. But will we see massive snow? It doesn't look like it in any of the data that we currently have. I know a lot of people have been talking about the weekend, and there must be something out there on social media that says there's a major storm coming. But at this point, no, it's a 30% chance. Could it put down a light accumulation? Yes. Would it cause travel problems? Yes, if it happens. But are we going to see a massive snowstorm? At this point, the answer to that is no.
Thinking of folks like Gene, it's a very quick comment there, and I'll just read Gene and saying, it helps lighten the load when you have folks who are willing to help you out. I can think of, growing up, if you spend a lot of time with your grandparents, if you wanted to do these things for them, just to, it could be very strenuous work, whatever the snowfall was, especially, even if you get on the high end of like our folks in Southern Indiana and even stretching down, it's nice to think that as a community, after the event is gone, you can look out for each other. I took care of what I needed to take care of, but who else could really use a helping hand at this point?
Always makes a difference. Certainly, more hands makes the load lighter.
Yes.
All right, let's see.
We can keep scrolling because you guys, as you keep commenting, it just our button to keep scrolling down through the questions. It just gets longer and longer and longer to try to find some of this. So Tanya, talking about loud booms at their house and what could be causing that for her in Bardstown out past Nelson County High School. I don't know the answer to that.
The only thing I can think of, and I don't know if it's happening, but I grew up in Nelson County. Fort Knox, we could always hear sometimes when the air is cold, we wind up hearing things further because of the denseness of the air. So sound can travel further because it sort of compresses down. So it stays closer to the ground. So it could be Fort Knox. Not sure what else it may be.
I want to bring up, as we keep scrolling up, Tanya, Jean, they're talking. Yes, that's who I was bringing up.
Talking about.
I walk away in front of her garage. Neighbor came up, cleaned her drive. She is one grateful lady. Pretty cool to say. Cool neighbors at that point. All right.
Don't you love good neighbors?
Yes.
I walked out the other day and my neighbors were out shoveling. I was working in my office, which is in the front of the house. And then the neighbor, I look out the door, shoveling multiple times. I turned off the lights. I didn't want them to know.
They didn't know you were there.
Just keep it up. Keep it up.
Is that just peeking your eyes through the shade through the curtains?
He's almost got it.
So much.
I don't want to be critical, but don't forget that spot over there.
I'm curious. So, Alicia, if you want to bring up that question, what helps determine? Because her question is about what makes a snowfall powdery. Perhaps the way we describe a heavy snow versus a very light snow, and where would that all be determined, Kevin?
Now, you seem like you may not know the answer to this, but I have a feeling you're married to a meteorologist.
I am. It happens that
you don't know the answer.
Quick recall for this specific question, and I would then defer to you and saying, if you could remind me, re-educate me on the
before you get beat up at home.
Yeah, or just get scolded very harshly.
Or you could look really good. You'll go home and Mallory will be like, "Oh, I didn't know you even knew that. I didn't know you were." So
I learned something new today.
All right, so the deal is what makes a snow wet or powdery has to do with the not necessarily the amount of liquid we have in the atmosphere, but the temperature that it falls through. So when we have very cold air, we would see a much drier solution, which would give a powdery snow.
Softer.
When we introduce a little more heat or a little more moisture with the heat, that's when we would see that packable snow.
The snowball snow.
About the good snow, I like to call it. And then of course the sleet is a whole different ball game, and so is the freezing rain. But all of those, the temperature profile plays a role in.
Thanks again. Ryan shout out because you were following a couple of the questions earlier, and Ryan leaving this observation that it could be a cryoseism, a frost quake.
Oh, yeah. Well, it could be that. I don't know if we've had enough ice to make that happen, but I guess if you had enough sleet, and maybe down in Nelson County, they would have had enough of that. So yeah, that could be it. And he's put a Wikipedia cryoseism on there.
References for you folks right there so you can read up.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have frost quakes. In fact, I think I saw that in the chat very early on, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I saw the same thing, Kevin, and I almost like did a double take on reading that. It's like, I don't think I'd ever heard it described or that particular phenomenon before.
There it was from Michelle. There it is.
There you are. Thanks, Michelle. And she's talking about, cryoseisms. I don't know. I was reading Wavy leaving that note there. Maybe this is a time to educate folks. Well, for the folks like me who have never had to deal with a frost quake, Kevin, that is something if I have to learn about experiencing, understanding what that is, okay, then I'll know for next time. This is the frost quake.
Yeah, no question. One thing I have noticed since we've been sitting here, increasing amounts of accidents. You've probably seen Wavy throwing up those.
Yeah.
And then there's another power outage in Grayson County. So we are seeing as the temperatures really cool down, more and more problems start to arise. And that's even with lower traffic volume at this time of night. So what that tells us is that we're likely seeing some refreezing of especially bridges, overpasses, ramps, where we can see this air circulate around, and it's much colder than what is being sort of protected by the ground itself, which is still below freezing, but maybe not as cold as some of those other things where the air can circulate. So be careful. If it looks wet, there's a very high chance that it is a glaze of ice.
And then if you remember your default training of, hoping it doesn't lead you to fall in a ditch or something much more dangerous, it's just sort of like, if you can avoid that, avoid it. And letting the momentum of your car. Hopefully, you're also not going at a speed that we would consider
dangerous,
not safe,
dumb. Have you been watching the
reckless
LMPD tweets?
They're not holding back, Kevin. That is no holds barred.
That's hilarious.
Petty is not the word perhaps I used to describe, but it's just sort of like it's someone rolling their eyes at someone who knows they should be doing the opposite of what they're doing.
They were listening. This is my favorite one. They were listing all of these things. Well, let me, before I get to that, I want to answer Toby's question. JCPS out.
Yes,
tomorrow.
Tuesday is still applying. Monday and Tuesday, the decision will probably come tomorrow, which we'll be keeping our eyes and ears out for whatever they decide. If Wednesday it still merits the consideration that the kids is going to be so cold and teachers.
Well,
too.
and that's the question. I think that's what Toby's asking is it because of the cold or because of the roads that they're out for tomorrow?
That could be a mix. Honestly, it's a little column A, a little column B, Toby, and whatever is. It's probably for the parents too to keep you off the roads. It's less risk for you guys so that you could stay home or do what you need to do and keep the kids as safe.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's a forward-looking question to if they were out for cold tomorrow, they'll definitely be out on Wednesday.
Which look at what's
colder.
Yes.
So that's a good question. So we were talking about the LMPD tweets, but they were listing the things that were like sort of crazy that they've seen and had to go rescue. And then of course they talked about the people skiing or sledding behind the vehicle.
Do you remember we were watching that last night? And these were guys out by the football stadium on campus, L&N Stadium.
Whatever bar they went to ahead of time, it had to have been completely wiped out for them to do what they were doing.
Is that just young person mentality of I'm invincible? Is that this aura of invincibility and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to live forever? Or to your point, was a little liquid courage involved?
I'm like, go with that probably. And maybe TikTok, because that's a bad combination between the two.
And they got the idea from someone who's like, oh, you could totally try this. I was just amazed and thinking, I've seen body surfing. I've never seen body sledding, or this is kind of like tubing, but the snow is not as forgiving as water, or I think so. Snow is not a soft surface.
They were in a parking lot. They weren't going slow.
They weren't wearing helmets.
They were not wearing helmets. They were holding onto a rope being pulled by a truck. No sled, no anything. It was just their body.
There's a D word for that, and we brought that up before. It's a 4-letter D word, folks. You can write that and fill in the blanks if you want.
Okay. Here, there's some folks thanking Ryan just as we are. So yes, appreciate that.
Sean, thankful to be back home in his own bed for at least one more night. I understand that wholeheartedly, Sean. That was for us. We even had a contingent staying at some hotels closer to the office here downtown.
Did you stay?
Stayed at the old Seelbach.
Oh, you did? Wow.
I did. Fancy. Never stayed there, and then
how was it?
It was very nice until you hear the stories of the lady ghosts, which I did not encounter. And
the lady in blue.
That's right.
Oh, I know.
You turn the TV on and Larry is there to walk you through the stories of all the
Oh, well, that's great right before
shady
you go to
stuff.
bed.
Mhm. Not on my floor. That's like, I'm not on that floor. I'm not going to see the
Is this
lady.
the 6th floor?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm stayed closer to the lobby. I'm happy there.
You're like, if you don't mind, I'll just stay here. These stairs will work fine.
Totally fine.
All right. Should we hang it up for tonight?
I'm up for it. We're coming up on 8:56.
All right. We appreciate everybody jumping in. We will say goodnight. We may do this together again throughout this week. If it's not me, it'll be Ryan sitting in. We'll do quick forecast updates for you so you know what's happening. We just wanted to jump on, give you the latest, what our team is doing out and about. We appreciate them having to deal. I mean, we're the house cats. They're not. They're out and about.
They're the sled dogs. And I'm not saying that pejoratively. I'm saying like they're out there in the elements and they're getting it done, getting from point A to point B. Hope you join Kevin and I, by the way, at 11. Julia is going to join us, or Julia Richardson, and she too is looking at this perspective. It seems like the conversation of, you have to maybe endure some time out in the cold, but that is so you can then cover your need for food. If you hadn't planned beforehand, just getting the supplies and the food you need. And for those who, for maybe them, it's a challenge right now, just being able to move or get where they need to go.
Is this a big problem? I don't know. Are people not
looking
eating?
at the scale? I hope they're eating.
We had a food story earlier today, so I'm like, is this a big crisis that we have going on?
Perhaps the different scales of those who just, I don't know if it's, the physical challenges to get out there and move, and who can bring them the food.
Yeah,
in a
so there's some
situation
people
like
that
this.
may be left behind, I guess.
Probably.
I hear you. Okay, well, we'll see what Julia has to say. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. It is coming up on 9 o'clock. Stay warm, and we'll see you back at 11.
Later, folks. Take you to black.